Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Commodity Podcast, your weekly podcast for car, motorcycle, and lifestyle enthusiasts alike. I'm your host, Gunter from Commodity Los Santos, the number one destination for automotive tuning and customization. Now you can watch us each week. Enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Commodity Podcast. If you're new, I'm your host, Gunter, and welcome to episode 15 of the Commodity Podcast, a podcast for motorcycle and car enthusiasts alike. Since our last episode, I've mentioned what cars I've been thinking about using for this month's car rotation. Last month, my three picks were the Comet Retro Custom, the Comet S2 Cabrio, and the Sentinel GTS. I've already mentioned keeping the GTS for this month. And for the past few days, I've been driving the Cara 4x4, which is based off the Ford Raptor. Recently, I did a few changes to that vehicle, such as changing the paint color from foliage green to a snow white, and changing the modified tires back to the stock off-road wheels. So far, I'm loving the truck as far as how it looks at this current moment. As a matter of fact, I've already had it spec like this, with just a few different modifications. But now I'm back to this look, and I'm really liking this look. So I'm thinking I'll add the Cara 4x4 to September's car rotation, along with the Gradi Capanizera to replace the Comet S2 Cabrio, and the Gradi Omaggio to replace the Comet Retro Custom. So yeah, those are my four picks for September, and I'll go ahead and drive around these vehicles, see which one I favor the most, and we'll get back to you maybe at the end of September to see what I like, what I don't like, what I'm going to keep, and maybe what I'm going to change for the following month. Also, this is a perfect segue to my most recent purchase. So, during last week's episode, I mentioned purchasing the Blister Conjo. That's for the test drive series, which I'm currently in the phase of editing right now. As a matter of fact, as soon as we wrap up this episode, I'm going to continue editing that one so I can release it on schedule. But during last week's discount worth mentioning, I only listed about 4 or 5 cars. Now, keep in mind, any vehicle that is listed in the discount worth mentioning segment are vehicles that I've owned or previously owned. Okay, so these are vehicles that I own right now or have previously owned, and now I'm just telling you that it's either a good vehicle or it's a bad vehicle. Mainly it's a good vehicle, and that now it's on discount and maybe you should pick it up. However, there was one vehicle that was on discount that I thought about recommending, but because I have no prior experience with this vehicle, I figured it was best to keep it off the list. This vehicle is currently still on sale, and after a few days of use, I can confidently say that the Toundra Panthere can easily beat the Fisker Growler if driven correctly. Although the Panther is one of the most expensive vehicles in the sports class, with the 40% off, you can pick one up for $1,302,000. Now, let me be clear. The Panther is based on the Alpine A110. And overall, I feel like it's just way too expensive to spend $2.1 million on a 4-cylinder inspired car. I just feel like it's a little too much. But again, since it's on discount, I do think it's a perfect time to pick it up. I had no reason to purchase the car, honestly. I just saw that it was on discount, and it's probably the only French car available in the game, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, someone can correct me in the comments below, but from my understanding, it's probably the only French car, maybe one more, but not really a popular brand that we even know about too much. So overall, super quick, probably one of the fastest 2-door sports coupe in the game at this moment. And because of its mid-engine layout, it handles similar to the Fisker Growler, if not better. So, so far, it's been fun to drive. Maybe I'll add it to the October car rotation. But we'll see. But as a recommendation, if you guys do not own this car, I do recommend to pick up on discount specifically. It is a fun car to drive, and so far I've been having fun. This spec that I have in it right now is based on the Alpina 110. I think it's the S model. And yeah, I like it. I like how it looks. I like the spec that I did so far. The only thing I'm thinking about is maybe changing the wheels. These wheels kind of look like the real life version, but I don't know. I kind of want to make it a little bit better. So maybe I'll change in the future. Not sure yet. Put on the different wheels, but I'll update you guys as time go on. On Thursday, we received this week's update from Rockstar Newswire. Aside from the undead taking over Island and the chance to win a t-shirt and 100K, what really caught my attention was two-time double money on open wheel races this week, which I thought was pretty cool because I actually really like open wheel races. I know that last week I complained about the game mode, and this week with the double money, this time I get to enjoy something that I like per se. So I had two good races this week. The first one was with a full lobby, which was like pure chaos, especially within the first two laps. I did end up gaining the lead, but I think I had a crash during lap 3, which then placed me down to third. This was a 10-lap race, so instead of quitting, I kept going, and by lap 5, I was more comfortable with the track and the car that I was driving specific. This is not a car that I own. I do own one of the race cars, but it's not this particular one. But by lap 8, I caught up with driver number 2, and he ended up crashing. So I held second place down basically until the end of the race, finishing second. So not bad for just like a random jump in and race situation. So I felt pretty confident. The next race, everybody quit. Literally everyone quit, except for 2 guys. So this lobby was just the 3 of us, which I felt much more confident. Much more confident. It's just not a lot of people to race against. And when you're racing against so many people, you kind of don't know who really know how to race to who's just gonna just crash. So again, because it was just 3 of us, not too many people to worry about. So I felt much more confident about winning this race. Also, because I know this track, I've raced this track before. So as soon as we took off, by the time we were able to reach like the first hairpin, I was able to gain the lead. And not just because of the car being fast, but just techniques and skills. So, just basic things like, we're like, it's 3 of us. We're all coming down on a straight. I would basically stay to the outside line for as long as possible while approaching that same hairpin, just because I know that there's a chance that the opponents behind me could possibly dive bomb into the back of my vehicle if I approach the inside line to make that turn. So just waiting a little bit, seeing how people react, and then kind of picking up the pace there. But also other tips I was using, just normal common racing tips, is like staying behind your opponent to pick up slipstream and also waiting for the right time to overtake. Overall, open wheel race series is one of my favorite feature series to play in the game, especially during double money week. So I had a good week making bread, just making double money, just doing some shit I like. And hopefully, if there's any other guys out there or girls who like open wheel races, you take advantage of the double money and double RP for this week. Staying on the topic of money, aside from double money on the open wheel, I'm still grinding my solo method. I have made some changes to this solo method from my last video or the last podcast episode in which I talked about what is my solo grind method and the changes in the auto shop customization. So I stopped modifying cars in the auto shop and I've substituted those tasks with money laundering missions from car wash and smoke on the water. So at the moment, my main source of income has been salvage yard exports, bunker sales, nightclub sales, money laundering missions, and selling extra product through street sales. And on average, This method makes me about 2.8 million to 3 million every 3.5 hours. Now, keep in mind, a portion of that 3.5 hours is spent on mission preparation. So these are like the salvage yard mission, the prep stuff that you have to do. In the meantime, for cool down things, I do like towing, resupplying businesses, and occasionally dealing with other players. So, for like 3 hours a game, 3.5 hours of gameplay, I think 3 million is not that bad, especially if you're not like spending a lot. Some of the times during my sale mission, I try not to use ghosts, like to come off the radar, because that's like, 15,000 already from your sale amount that you're expecting to get. So just being smart, knowing when is the right time to use it and when it's not. And just saving overall. So although I made a few purchases this week, like the Blister Chondro and the Panthere, my ending balance for this week still remains in the 30 million-ish, 32 million and some change to be exact. And I think I'm doing pretty good as far as maintaining the amount that I have while still being able to make purchases. Staying on the topic of money, save yourself some cash this week with these 4 discounts. Over at Legendary Motorsports website, you can pick up the Baller ST for $623,000 or a trade price of $467,250 with a 30% off discount. Next, you can pick up the Slogan GT for $1.3 million with a 30% discount. Plus, all the discount mentioned in episode 14 are still available to purchase this week, like the Amaggio and the Debauchee Spectre, and one of my purchases, the Toundra Panthere. Over at Premium Deluxe Motorsports Showroom, you can pick up the Debauchee 77 for $695,000. Now, this is the full price of this vehicle and is not on sale, but it is a removed vehicle. So if you want it, you can head down here for your chance to pick it up. And last is the Declasse Vamos for $596,000, which is also full price. It is also removed, but if you want it, now's your chance to pick it up at Premium Deluxe. All right, it's past our scheduled recording time, and our producer behind the camera is telling us to wrap it up. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, comment below, and let us know your thoughts on this episode. If you guys are interested in car-related content, check out our test drive series. The podcast is updated every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the test drive series will release every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can get in touch with me at Instagram at Gunter Browne. You can also email us at inquire.gb@gmail.com. Thank you for listening this week, and please join us next week for another episode of the Commodity Podcast.